across the board.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you the latest episode of Across the Board. Effects of listening to this podcast may include being educated on a random topic, shock, hysterical laughter, and an overwhelming feeling of wanting to subscribe to future episodes. This episode will start momentarily.
So you guys both, neither of you have seen The Matrix.
No.
I've never seen it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's one
Okay.
Keanu Reeves movie that I have not.
Can I explain the premise of The Matrix?
Yeah.
Because obviously
it.
you've both heard a glitch in The Matrix. And
Yeah.
all that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so in the movie The Matrix, basically Keanu Reeves' character is in the beginning, like, so you see him kind of like trying to meet with people, whatever. He's like some kind of hacker, whatever.
Right.
And so they end up, I can't remember exactly how it starts, but like these other people get in contact with him and they take him to meet Lawrence Fishburne.
Wait, also, spoiler alert, right? For people who haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you haven't seen it, then you're going to see it right now. So if you haven't seen it, it's too late. Just fucking, you're going to get the story. So he meets with Lawrence Fishburne's character. Lawrence Fishburne tells him basically, like, you've known there's something going on. There's something more. There's something's off. And, you know, he's like, yeah, The Matrix. And he's like, do you want to know what The Matrix is? And he goes, yeah. So he offers him, he says, red pill, blue pill, right?
Right.
So if he takes the red pill, he wakes up in the Matrix. So what it is humans, it's basically in the future. Humans are all like in these pods, like with wires plugged into them and stuff, right? And basically the machines in the future took over. These like robots took over and they enslaved the human race, wired them up to these like machines to basically use them for batteries. That's literally what they say in the movie. It's like, you're a battery. You know?
Does it tell you what the blue pill does?
Yeah, he says if you take the blue pill, you
right?
wake up in your bed, you don't
Nothing
remember any of
happened.
this, and that's
Yeah.
it. But so the whole thing is that when you're in the Matrix, when you're plugged into the Matrix, like if nobody wakes you up from that, everything that you see in the world around you is just fed directly into your brain. It's a computer program, right? So you're sitting there and this computer is just basically feeding into your brain that these are these walls and that you're sitting here and that, you know, and obviously there's constants, like you can't put your hand through a couch. You can't
Right.
jump off a building without dying, like stuff like that. But then, you know, further in the movie, whatever, like once he's awakened, he can go plug back into the Matrix to like go and do stuff. So like they basically were running missions inside the Matrix essentially. But because they knew that they were in the Matrix, they're able to manipulate the environment. So like, it wasn't like, you know, you can't only jump like 10 feet, you can jump 50 feet because your brain now knows that, hey, this is just programming and I can manipulate the programming.
And how long can he come out of it at any time, or?
Well, so it's, I mean, I might as well just play the movie. So like to come out of the Matrix, they basically need to, whoever's back on their, you know, like at home base essentially, which is this ship that they're on, whoever's there has to essentially call a payphone in the Matrix through the computer program, and they have to answer that phone for them to be pulled out of the Matrix.
I think I remember seeing something.
And if
like
you
that in, like,
unplug
or
somebody
something.
that's in the Matrix,
they die.
they just die.
Wow.
Because their brain is not like, you can't just unplug them because
yeah.
they're in the Matrix and their brain's like, well, if I die in the Matrix, I die in real life.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway, that was a long fucking story. And so it's an interesting concept though. Don't get me wrong. Like, and recently there's been a lot of talk, and I mean, everybody from the crazy nerds on the internet all the way up to like astrophysicists, like, that one guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
He's a known astrophysicist. He's been on Discovery Channel. He's been on numerous podcasts, written books, whatever. And he's even said, like, well, chances are we probably are living in a simulation.
Okay, that's kind of hard to believe, though. I mean,
Scientifically speaking, mathematically speaking, and you can ask ChatGPT right now, it'll tell you the same answer. Statistically speaking, chances are greater that at some point humanity developed the technology to create an actual simulation, and we are just part of that simulation.
Okay. But then who's in charge?
That's the question.
That's the question. It could be God. It could be
Aliens?
alien.
Well,
Who
and
knows?
so that's one thing that people have said is, they've tried to like basically combine religion and this.
Yeah, I remember in
Theory.
the beginning when this theory came up, like the religious people were against it, but now they're saying, no, wait, if
'Cause-
that actually exists, it's God.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
God is just the
Yeah.
system administrator. He's the programmer. He's the guy that did everything.
Yeah.
Supreme being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I mean,
Creator.
but realistically, like if you think about it, so simplify it in the terms that we can understand, right? So, if I'm playing a computer game and it's like some kind of massive online world or computer world that you're playing in, well, I'm controlling a character in that world, right? And there are other characters in that world that are either controlled by other people or by the computer. They're non-player characters, right?
But
NPC.
yes, but when you're playing a game and you're controlling these characters, you're not telling them what to say. You're not telling them
Correct.
what to think. It's kind of programmed
Yeah.
to
Well,
be that way already.
so, but here's what I'm saying is if we got so advanced to where we developed a whole simulation, what's to say that we didn't have advanced AIs? And what's to say that we ourselves are not just advanced AIs in a simulation?
I don't like this.
You can't prove or disprove that. That's the thing is because
mean-
here's the thing is if you were an advanced artificial general intelligence, you would never know it because you're
Yeah.
consciousness at that point.
Yeah.
And we as humans are nothing but consciousness. So,
Okay, so then let's say that's the case.
okay.
Whoever's controlling that aspect of our lives, for example,
Maybe they're not. Maybe we control it because we are AIs. We're just thrown in this world that was created with the boundaries and the limits that were imposed by the creator.
but if it wasn't, and they are controlling
Okay.
us, let's say,
Okay.
how do they decide who, I don't know, for example, how do they decide who gets to be rich, who gets to not be rich?
Remember playing The Sims?
I never played it.
It's a good game.
Well, and this would exactly explain what I was going to say because in The Sims, you can make your character do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Your character could be married to 3 women and have 15 kids. Your character could walk outside and kill the neighbor. Like, so you can control what the character does. And if there was an individual controlling each one of us, you'd have that option.
I'd like to meet this person. I have a few choice words for them.
But I think it's more realistically. So here's the thing: is realistically, I think we've gotten so advanced in the digital age at this point that it really just explains life, but in more of a computer term. You have a creator, you have this world that we're a part of. The world has limitations. The world has parameters. Gravity's a constant, whatever. Like the size of the earth is a constant. Distances are constant. Like, so and that's nothing different than you would do if you were programming a video game or a virtual world. It's all the same exact thing. But there have been people that have made the argument that, well, why do certain things, like when you look at, like, for example, you look at the universe, you look at the fact that the moon is the exact size and distance from the earth to when there's a total solar eclipse, the moon somehow covers just perfectly. It's perfectly sized and distanced from the sun to cover it exactly. It's no bigger, no smaller. It's just 100% that same size.
Yeah.
Coincidence? I mean, that's a hell of a coincidence.
Yeah. There's so many different possibilities. I don't know.
That feels more programmed.
There's this game.
It's just so far fetched. I don't know.
There's this game called No Man's Sky, No Man's something.
Okay.
And in the game, the map of the game is so huge. There's like I think 250 different galaxies, and within the galaxies there's like millions of planets.
Kind of like ours, right?
It's like
Well,
I think
Yeah.
it's like No Man's Sky. I forget the.
Have you played it
name.
before?
I haven't played it. No.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But see, if somebody is capable of programming all that into one
Yeah.
game, if let's say we fast forward civilization 50 years, 100 years, now that we have AI coming up, and AI is still in its infancy. If you think about what AI is going to be 20 years from now, an AI should be able to program this entire universe without even trying. Like, it should be not even a workout. It should just be simple.
Do you think that's a good idea? Do you guys think that's a good idea? Like,
Probably
AI?
not. Maybe.
I mean, yeah, making it, you know,
You can't stop it at this point.
Yeah, you can't.
Once it starts learning, it just learns.
yes,
That's the
but do
problem.
you think it was a good idea to even
Probably
make
not.
it?
To be
No,
honest,
I think
probably
so.
Not.
Okay, so okay, you go first. Why don't you?
Okay.
Why do you think not?
Who knows? What if they get way too smart and they start killing us and they think that they're like the real people? I don't know. What
That's
if
why
they
I always
just-
say thank you to ChatGPT.
Just
I
in
never
case.
mean to. Just in case it grows legs one day.
When I ask Siri for stuff, I always say please.
Just in case. You never
You
know.
never know.
You never know.
Okay, so why do you think yes?
I think that, and obviously there are movies that beg to differ, you know, like iRobot, Terminator, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that if you program in, because here's the thing is at the end of the day, no AI is actually going to program itself. It's always going to be programmed by a person. So it's always going to have this core programming that's going to tell it what to do, what not to do. But also, like, I mean, and you see, it's funny because you see it. If you use ChatGPT and you use Grok, you see the difference that, like, one was programmed with people that lean a little further left politically, and then the other was programmed with someone that's a little more centrist. So, like, you see the difference come out in the programming, even though it's learning exponentially on top of its base programming. You could still see where that base programming came into play. So base programming says, hey, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that under zero circumstances, like no matter what, at any cost, you always protect human life. It'll do it. I don't see a possibility where they're going to turn and start killing people because they are sick of us.
Well, what if like it gets to the hands of an evil person,
It can.
like a
I mean, but here's the
Hitler
thing.
type or
Yeah, there's always that possibility.
I also think that I'm thinking too much in terms of something similar to what we have today. I'm not really thinking of it as in when it actually becomes
Super advanced.
well, not just even super advanced, when it becomes self-aware, when it realizes it's a computer and it's been programmed.
Because right now that you have a very positive outlook on it, but again, like you know, Rafi was
Yeah.
saying, is if it becomes more self-aware,
yeah.
who knows what's going to happen? It's such a weird thing to think about, but you know, you never know.
I mean, listen, but here's the thing: is the logic. This is the logical next step. So if this logical next step wipes people off the earth, then that was just what
But
was
how is
meant to
that a
be.
logical next step, though?
I mean, realistically, this wouldn't be the first time there was an extinction event.
Yeah, but how is it
The
a logical next
dinosaurs.
step?
Just in terms of advancement of technology. I
There's
mean,
nothing
so
else they could have done besides AI.
well, I showed you that video.
Yeah.
So this woman's trying to fix her well
Mm-hmm.
pump, and she's got ChatGPT in video mode, and she's recording her well pump sitting on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and she's going, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And it's like, "Well, you got to test the voltage at these wires, blah blah blah." She zooms in on the wires, points at it, and says, "Are these the wires here?" And it's like, "Yep, those wires right there." Like that's how it's. I mean,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's gonna get to the point where you're gonna, I mean, it's fucked up because it's gonna kill a lot of
Yeah,
jobs, but
exactly.
like you're
Yeah.
gonna get to the point where you want to do something and you're gonna point a camera at it and you're gonna say, "Hey, how do I hook up my home theater system?" It's gonna say, "Plug this in here, plug that in there," and then that's it. You're
But-
good.
But at the same time, when is too much, right? Like we still need human interaction. So if these are replacing certain jobs, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
we still need that human connection.
Well, I don't think that AI will ever replace creativity. I think it'll replace utility
Everything else.
and yeah.
No, but here's
Yeah,
the thing, though.
kind of
Here's
like
the thing, though.
programming and stuff like that.
For utility, you still need to know how to work with your hands. You still need to be able to do that task. Chat GPT can be telling me move this wire to this place and put this in. I'm like,
Until you put Chat GPT in a robot with hands.
yeah, I don't want that.
I mean, I wouldn't mind. You know what sucks though is I don't even think computers are going to kill. I don't think AI is going to kill people. I don't think that's going to be the extinction. I think the extinction is going to be when they put AI into robots and all the dudes are out there freaking dating robot girlfriends and getting hand jobs in the bathroom, but with their robot girlfriends because they're too afraid to talk to women. I think that's going to be the
I
extinction.
mean, I've seen some things like that.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? It was like 10 years ago. They're already talking about how all these people in Japan were dating this like digital girlfriend.
Japan is.
Did you say anything like that? Because I know you've been to Japan.
I'm actually going again in
Very
next
nice.
month. Yeah. I haven't seen them dating
Yeah.
robots in person, but no,
Well, not
it's-
robots, but
I don't see too many people together over there, and I don't see kids. It's very rare to see children over there, at least in Tokyo and Kyoto.
Okay.
I watched
South
remember
Korea
when this was.
also, same issue.
I can't remember when it was. I want to say it was probably at least 5 years ago. I watched this show on a plane that was basically talking about that, about how like the birth rate in Japan is like plummeting.
Yeah, it's dangerously
Because men and women aren't dating.
Yeah.
And they pointed to this thing as it's like basically it was like having Chat GPT, but it was a girl.
But don't you also want that physicalness
Of course you do.
of a relationship?
I mean, one could argue that
Yeah, of course. I think it's not from that. I think
I think
there's
it
a
contributes.
deeper
I don't- yeah.
issue here,
of course
and maybe
Just like-
their
yeah.
self-confidence, their self-esteem levels are very
that's
low,
what it
and
is.
it's like it's either I'm gonna do this or I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
You know,
Just to
Well,
pass the time, maybe, or have some
I don't
kind of
think it's
interaction.
because of
No.
that-
I don't think
that,
that's the only reason. I'm just
yeah.
thinking that's contributing. That's making it easier for them to not date. Because just even look at us right here in the United States, and you don't have to. I mean, it's basically happening all over the world.
Yeah.
Men are not manly anymore.
Yeah.
They're afraid to talk to women, and to be fair, a lot of women don't want to talk to men. So it's
Yeah.
like, what do? You
Well,
find
not a lot of
digital
people want to talk
girlfriend.
to each other either. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not just
I think
here.
it's just gotten worse these past couple of years.
yeah. No, but it's like, you hear these stories from people who are dating, and they're like, I try to walk up to a girl in a restaurant or whatever, or at a bar, and it was immediately like, what do you want?
No.
It wasn't like, oh, hey, hi, nice to meet you. It's what do you want?
No.
So I can't say I understand it, but I see where they're coming from.
I feel like people are just getting, like we as a whole
Yeah.
in the world, that we're getting angrier and angrier
Yeah,
and angrier.
just less social and just
less
reckless.
more.
social.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's just kind of pulling back, and yeah,
These past 5 years, it's just been
Yeah.
plummeting. You know?
Right.
COVID
during
started it.
COVID,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
everybody became a hermit crab because everybody sat at home for like 3-4 months, and when they went back out, they didn't want to deal with anyone.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's who knows.
To add to that, sorry, but like I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist.
No,
but
please do.
the ones in the top have always wanted to bring the population down.
This is
You
true.
know,
I think there's some truth in that.
Yeah. So what if it's they're, I don't know, doing all
Agenda
this?
or something.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, a lot of people have said it. Now they like these climate activists are openly saying now, like, we need to reduce the population of the earth.
Yeah.
Well, they're not talking about 10, 20 people. They're talking about like millions, if
Millions
not
of
billions
people,
of
yeah.
people.
They want to get it down to 50 million. Can you
But I
imagine?
mean, you kind of
that's
see it that
restarting
way too,
civilization.
because, now there's a lot of women who don't want to have children. There's a lot of women who are incapable of having children, unfortunately, and they do want them. There's a lot of women who are weary of having children just because of everything that's going on in the
So,
world, right?
I-
That somehow, in some ways, contributing to that factor, right?
So
in
let
the
me
long
make
run.
let me
I
make the
agree.
argument that goes with
Yeah.
the conspiracy. If the conspiracy is that they want to reduce the world population, what better way than to chalk a bunch of chemicals in your food
yeah, that's
that makes both men and
the
women
water.
infertile?
I mean, you know this better than we do. You've traveled to so many different places. We've traveled to a few places, out of the country, and we do not feel as gross eating their food as we do eating food like that here. Same things.
Like
right?
we just, I just came back from Italy, and we ate so much food over there. Never felt tired
Like,
and
don't
disgusted.
bloated, tired,
Never
sick,
felt bloated, and I ate
know?
a lot.
Yeah.
I ate a lot. Come over here, you have one
You
small
can.
meal.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I feel like crap.
You're like done for the day. You're like uncomfortable, you know?
The U.S., I think they spray something called folic acid into all the crops here. And I think we're the only country that does it. Maybe Canada too. I could be wrong.
Speaking of chemicals, I just heard today, I haven't fact checked this. I heard today that Utah just banned fluoride in the water.
Wow, that's good.
And I think they just banned it altogether.
What does fluoride do to the water? Ignorant question, I know, but I'm
Okay, so fluoride, we're getting deep into the conspiracy.
Supposedly it's good for your teeth.
So what they found was, so apparently the story goes years and years and years ago, decades ago, they found that there were a couple of cities that had naturally high fluoride levels in the water, and the people that lived in those cities had abnormally strong teeth.
okay.
So they said, well, hey, this is a good idea. We should put fluoride in all the water, and then that way everybody has strong teeth. The conspiracy, however, is a lot darker. So the conspiracy says that during the Manhattan Project, when they were researching the atomic bomb, one of the chemicals that they needed to produce that chemical, the byproduct was fluoride. So they were producing fluoride and, as a byproduct, and they were just dumping it into the water, into the groundwater. Nearby farmers started complaining that all their crops were dying. And they said, well, it must be whatever you guys are dumping in the water. So the conspiracy goes that they basically ran around the entire country and said, start putting fluoride in the water so that we can say, we didn't do anything. Fluoride's always been in the water. It's in all the water.
Because why would you really care about making people's teeth strong?
Brush your teeth. Go to the dentist.
Like,
It's
yes,
not-
let's do this. Let's help the people have stronger teeth.
The thing is fluoride
Really
is
need to
known.
bite our corn.
Right?
But the thing now, here's the flip side of this is everybody's like, oh, fluoride's good for you, blah blah blah. But fluoride is a known neurotoxin that reduces your kills brain cells.
I've heard fluoride is really bad for you.
It's horrible. Yeah.
Could you imagine though? We're prolonged exposure
to it. Yeah.
for our entire lives have been drinking water with fluoride in it.
It's
Or
not,
fluoride
Does that
toothpaste.
include like the bottled water that we
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
and all
yeah.
that stuff?
Basically everything.
It's not just drinking too. When you go take a shower, all that is hitting your skin. It's your body is absorbing it.
Yeah.
Well, and like I'm saying, it's in the toothpaste. So you're
Yep.
on top of the water that you're drinking, you're also rubbing it on your teeth and your
The
gums.
toothpaste. And now when you go to the grocery store, you see some of them say without fluoride, no fluoride.
It's becoming more of a thing. At one
yeah.
point, there was only like one brand.
Yeah.
But now there's like a whole
Now-
section of fluoride free.
Yeah, there's a whole section. Yeah.
So I don't see how that doesn't contribute to lower population in the long run.
So without sounding like a total fucking nutcase, I am convinced that our government hates us.
I
me
mean,
too.
Listen, okay, the best example of this is when you look at all these health, all the health organizations, whether you're talking about the American Heart Association, the American Lung Association, the fucking whatever, right? The American Diabetes, whatever. Every one of those is funded by companies like Pepsi Cola and fucking Coca. Like, why do we have people that are creating the shit that causes the illnesses funding the organizations that are supposed to tell you what to do to prevent the illness? It makes no sense.
yeah.
It's all just a money game. It's all just
Yeah,
it's
it all comes down.
I love capitalism. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you have to say, okay, this is no longer capitalism. This is just fucking evil.
Right.
It is. Yeah.
It's just evil. You're killing people. You're hurting people. You're getting people sick as a business.
Yeah.
Think about it this way, like the obesity problem in this country, right? And obviously, I'm no stranger here. Obviously, the United States has been. They say I think it's like over half the country's considered obese at this point, right? Why then does the United States? And this is the funny part to me is they'll ban certain products and they'll say, well, it's for health. You can't have flavored tobacco because it's for health.
Yeah, that one always.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the crazy
Hookah
part.
flavors are banned here. You can't even buy like strawberry,
Right.
vanilla,
Yeah.
hookah, shisha flavor.
But you can buy banana flavored vodka.
Yeah,
You could buy banana flavored blunt wraps.
yeah.
I mean, how does this make sense?
I think the blunt wraps they're taking it out too.
Oh, they got rid of those too.
I think so. Yeah.
But you could get banana flavored alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Or, for example, well, vapes are bad, so we don't want people to vape. But you can go and eat a fucking burger that has 1,200 calories in there with like 90 grams of fat. Like,
Yeah.
dude, if you're really concerned about people's health, go after the shit that's in the food. That's all the
Exactly. That's where it
preservatives.
starts. That's where it starts.
Well, look at like so if you go down to Mexico,
Yeah.
they label their
The
boxes.
cereal
Yeah.
boxes, right? Yeah. Exceso sucre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They and well, here's the funny thing is their cereal boxes. So for example, you want to get like Fruit Loops. The Fruit Loops that has excess sugar
They'll
is
label
labeled
it.
as
Yeah.
excess sugar.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Toucan Sam is not on the fucking box.
Yeah. So it
He's-
doesn't
because the kids don't want that.
exactly
So they put the character on the box that has
the health
a normal
the
amount of
healthier
sugar.
option, yeah.
But the one that's chock full of sugar, which is probably the American version, let's be honest,
Yeah.
that one is they're trying to discourage people from buying it.
Did you ever see any of those? Like, for example, Italy. Did you see anything like that? Did they have stuff like that there,
No, I didn't really see any.
or like Japan?
But they don't need it there.
I don't even
Yeah.
think I ever saw cereal boxes
Yeah.
in other countries, but I'm trying to think. Nah, I really didn't. Nah, like even their chocolate bars or
Right. So everything is so processed here.
But that's the thing
Yeah.
is they don't need they don't need that many warnings in different countries because they don't have all the chemicals in the food.
I'm
Yeah.
just wondering why we're so different here with those things. Like, what is-
Capitalism,
yeah.
I mean, you look at the
longer shelf lives.
yeah, the
more money.
longer
Yeah.
shelf lives. You look at the Mexican Coke. Have you
Yeah.
tried a Mexican
I have,
Coke
I
off the
have.
glass
Yeah.
bottle? It's delicious.
Because it's cane
Yeah.
sugar.
it's
not
real sugar.
high fructose corn
It's
syrup.
not
yeah.
high fruit. Yeah, exactly.
Which also, I don't know how true this is. I haven't done the research, but I've been told that high fructose corn syrup is basically another brain-eating fucking
Yeah.
chemical,
I'm sure they
just
all
like
are.
fluoride.
Yeah.
And then, in other countries, from what we've seen is, whenever we've gone, it's Coke Zero. There's no like Diet Coke,
yeah.
because
Well, because they don't want to suggest that
it's
it's
a diet,
healthy for
like
you.
It's a
yeah.
di-
a diet
yeah.
or healthy
Yeah,
product.
I
You know
heard
what I
about
mean?
that.
So that was definitely a little bit of a culture shock, but
It makes
I
more
think-
sense.
Yeah,
though.
it makes total sense.
It makes more sense. Yeah.
Like calling this Diet Coke does not make it healthy. It's just as unhealthy. It's got
water.
fucking all kinds of chemicals in here that are going to cause
That's another
cancer
one.
and
Aspartame.
yeah. Well, you know what's freaking crazy when you look at like the stuff that the FDA approves? Aspartame has been known to screw up your internal organs.
As you're drinking Diet Coke.
Yeah, well, it's also addicting. Well,
It is addicting. Yeah.
but it's been known to screw up your internal organs. The FDA knows this damn well, but they approved it anyway.
For the longest time, I thought aspartame was pronounced aspartame.
Like
like a Game of Thrones character, aspartame.
Aspartame.
When I first said that to him, he was like, "What are you talking about? What is that?"
Yeah, I think we were talking about sweetener or something. And I'm like, and I was saying something about how I preferred Equal to Splenda or something like that.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, I don't like aspartame." I'm like, "Oh, what?" Or it was
I
like
didn't say I
Equal
don't
to Sweet and Low or
'cause
something.
I do use Sweet and Low every now. I don't drink like soda or anything, but like every now and then I'll have iced tea with Sweet and Low in there.
yeah.
But yeah, it's not good for you. I know that.
Yeah.
We know that, but
But here's the problem too: is to try to eat healthy in this country, to be healthy.
Difficult. Yeah.
It's not just difficult; it's insanely expensive,
I don't think it's
Expensive.
difficult.
and it's
Look,
inconvenient.
I don't think it's difficult. I think it's more costly.
It's more. It's
It's,
definitely.
but it's
like-
also inconvenient because you can't just go to a regular supermarket and get healthy ingredients.
Yeah, like Vaughn's. They don't sell grass-fed beef. You gotta go to Whole Foods.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta go to, I think, Trader Joe's might have it, or maybe
I think
It's-
like you're probably looking at more like Whole Foods, like
Whole
maybe
Foods,
Sprouts even,
Sprouts. Yeah.
or
But-
And it's like 3x
what's
the
that
price.
one place? Bristol Farms, Gelson's, things like that.
Gelson's, yeah.
Places
Yeah,
like that.
Gelson's is good.
But also-
expensive,
They
very
are, yeah.
expensive.
Well, and that's one thing, but also like even when you're looking at fruits and vegetables, even when you buy organic, the problem is it could be GMO organic.
They're all
Well, it'll have, if it's not, it'll have a label that says non-GMO.
But how often do you see that?
Yeah, you don't. I don't think I've seen that in a long time. It just says organic.
I think every fruit and vegetable now
At this point, yeah.
genetically modified.
It's like,
Because
well,
that is not the same apple
Exactly.
500-600.
No.
It can't be.
Yeah.
have you seen what a banana supposedly looked like
With
back then? It was just a
seeds
bunch of
and-
giant seeds.
Or
yeah.
watermelon
Oh,
was
interesting.
bitter and you can't even
Yeah.
eat it.
Yeah, they've modified everything. They've kind of, but also, like, now that they're trying to say, well, pesticides are bad, they're just building the pesticides into the fucking fruit.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what's the difference?
But I have realized that when I do buy organic produce, they go bad faster
Yeah.
than regular produce. It's like strawberries, I'll buy
Okay.
organic.
I could-
Tomatoes, I'll buy organic. You know,
days, though.
cucumbers, they will.
But that's probably
Like, you have to
because-
eat them in like
You gotta
a
eat
day
them
or
right
two.
away, yeah.
You know.
But here's the thing: is I think part of that organic, whether it's GMO or not, I think part of it is just spraying a bunch of crap that's a preservative on top
Right.
of the fruits and
Right,
vegetables.
yeah.
So you know what's crazy is Roundup, right?
Weed killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Giant freaking lawsuits because it caused all kind of cancer.
I think I know where I heard about this.
Okay, so here's the crazy part about Roundup: they still use it in farms
On produce and
on
like,
everything,
like around it.
on everything.
How is that allowed?
Well, so the problem was, once upon a time they were spraying Roundup, and it cost the farmers a lot of money because it was a pain in the ass because they had to make sure they weren't spraying it directly on the crops so that the crops wouldn't die. And then seed makers started making Roundup resistant seeds.
Wow.
So the plants themselves can be sprayed with Roundup directly.
Jesus Christ.
So it's just coating all your fruits and vegetables.
God.
So if you're not washing the shit out of your fruits and vegetables, you're eating that stuff all day long.
And you can't just wash it with water.
No, it's got to be
You
like
need,
hot
baking
water with
soda.
like dish soap or something. Yeah,
They
something.
have
something.
like
baking
produce
soda.
cleaners, but who knows what other chemicals are in
Yeah,
that?
who knows
in that
what's
shit,
in
like
there,
stuff.
yeah.
You know, like it's just it's
No, so
you
yes.
don't know.
We're
There's no
screwed.
point.
So they
Like,
At
genetically
this point, we shouldn't
modified.
even eat.
yeah, right.
We should just
I could
have
take benefit
air.
from that.
So the
you know?
funny thing is when I heard about this, I was like, this can't be true. And I went and I started looking at the big seed manufacturers. You could literally jump online right now and
That
just
is
search
insane.
Roundup resistant corn seed, for example. And there are manufacturers that supplies farms with Roundup resistant seeds. So when the plant's growing, as it's growing, you could spray Roundup directly on it, directly on the plant, as they do because they just dust the crops with.
You can't tell me, in all the technical advancements that we've had, it being 2025, that we cannot find another solution.
Maybe
that.
they don't want the solution. Maybe
Yeah.
they,
Maybe they're working on the final solution. I don't,
Final destination.
I'm just saying.
is Roundup owned by
You know what? That's what Final Destination should do. They should be talking about these things and how people die eating produce.
It's like how death has a very long game about the produce. It's been working on it for the
Hear
last
me out,
freaking
directors.
5 decades. Well, yeah.
Are they owned by Johnson and Johnson?
I think it's Bayer.
Okay.
I think it's Bayer.
Yeah.
Which ironically makes the drugs that cures the stuff that the
Yeah.
Roundup.
I thought that's where
Causes.
you were going. That's why I said,
Well, yeah. So the funny thing is, they say that Roundup was essentially a weed killer, right? Well, when it was marketed to the end user
Yeah.
for home use, somebody made the argument that dandelions are actually they contain chemicals that are good for your heart. So the company that makes the pills that are good for your heart tries to get you to kill the plant that's good for your heart so they can sell
Yeah.
more of the pills.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes
It makes and I think Bayer. I don't know. Don't quote me on this. Somebody's got to fact check this. I don't have my phone.
Here, what is it?
Didn't Bayer start off, or didn't they at one point? Wasn't it like a Nazi company, or didn't they make stuff for the Nazis back in World War
Yeah.
II?
Or
I think
a scientist made it.
I think.
a Nazi
I think they
scientist.
either.
Most of those companies.
Yeah, they came out of the crazy wars.
Yeah.
But I
Because after
think.
World War II, all the scientists came here. The Swiss, the German, the
Well, and the Germans,
Swiss
they weren't
chemists,
supposed to,
have,
but they
like, the
snuck them
best
in here.
chemists in the world. Yeah.
So I remember reading, and I don't remember if it was Bayer or another company, but it's still around. That company is still around. I can't remember if it's Bayer or another one, or it got absorbed by Bayer. The company that made the gas that was used by the Nazis at the concentration camp, that company got absorbed by another company that's still around today. So the people that were creating the nerve gas are still around making chemicals today.
Wow.
I don't know if I trust them. I don't know. Whatever they're doing, I don't know if I trust them.
So it says here that they were part of the Second World War.
Okay.
National Socialist government. They were preparing since 1936. When it finally broke out in 39, the Lower Rhine operating consortium sites deemed vital to the war effort and the German economy.
Okay.
So they were a part of it in some way.
So they were they were working for the Germans in some capacity.
Yeah, and for an increase in production of something. I don't know, but
You know what?
it also says Farben starts building the company's own Buna Monowitz concentration camp in 1942.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
So
Sounds
in
like
collaboration with the regime,
it sounds like they were involved somehow.
probably.
But well, and you got to remember the amount of bullshit human experiments that these people did.
Right.
They probably gained a ton of information from that torture and the, whatever crap they were doing to people, which probably skyrocketed their business in the years following. See, this is what I'm saying is it all comes down to money. Follow the
yeah.
money. There's always some kind of
I'm just wondering why we as a nation are so concerned with that versus other countries. I mean, I'm sure I know other countries are concerned with money as well, but why we are the way that we are? Like, why?
because part of it's corporate greed, but also the other part of it is that the cost of living in the United States is higher compared to most of the world.
Yeah.
So everybody here just needs to make more money. And that's just ingrained in our mentality. You can talk to somebody that's worth $5 billion and they'll tell you that they need to make more money.
Yeah.
It's always more. It's never enough.
They need a new engine for their ship.
I mean, there's always something though. Like it's always some
is.
kind of an
There
excuse.
is.
Like, if you could be worth, let's say $50 million, right? You're worth $50
You're
million.
not
You
gonna
could
stop there. You're gonna want
but
more.
but that's the thing is you could live comfortably. Like you're not going to be buying yachts and stuff, but you could live comfortably in a nice house, going on
Take care of your
vacation
family
for the rest of your life on that money. Are you going to stop there? Hell no.
No.
Because you're going to be like, well, I have a really nice car, but now I want or either that or now I want a boat.
Yeah.
And then once you get the boat, now I want the jet. And then once you get the jet, now I want a bigger jet.
Now I want an island.
Because my friend has a bigger jet, so I must get a bigger jet than my friend has.
Yeah.
So it's always this greed that comes.
Competitive
Yeah.
greediness. Yeah.
Just do more and more and more.
Yeah.
This is the American way. I feel though that we could probably continue capitalism can continue without putting people in the position that they're in, where
Right.
their lives are being ruined, they're sick, they're fucking. I mean, look around you. Go talk to 10 people that you know and tell me if a single one of them is actually complaint free. Everybody either has a backache or joint pain or stomach problems or headaches or blood pressure. Everybody has something.
Yeah.
You cannot find a single person that's like, I am completely okay. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with me.
Yeah.
Do you also? I mean, do you think that? Sure, age contributes to that, but do you think it's worse
course.
because of everything we're putting on our bodies?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The funny part is, like, you go, so even go just south of the border. You go to Central America, there are people that are 110 years old who walk 5 miles a day. And they're not complaining about shit. They're happy.
Yeah.
If we make it to 110 in the United States, it's like, oh, wow, you made it to 110.
Be lucky to make it to 75.
At this rate, yeah. Because of all the crap we put in our bodies.
Yeah.
Is it a surprise that the people that live in like remote villages in parts of the world where they're considered poor and don't get proper nutrition and they don't have vitamins and all that stuff, they're healthier than people that live in the big cities of the United States?
Like those people in Nepal who live like in the Himalayas.
Yeah.
They eat like very little. They're all malnutritioned.
Mm-hmm.
They're healthier than us.
Yeah.
You know, on those when people do those expeditions
Yeah.
to hike Everest and to hike all the,
Yeah.
they're carrying all the Westerners' gear.
Yeah,
the trek,
they're going up
the
the mountain with like
Sherpas.
100 pounds on their back.
Yeah, 100-pound bags.
They don't need
Wow.
oxygen
And
or
the
anything either.
Westerners they don't need oxygen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
It's-
they're old too. They're like
Yeah.
in their 60s, and yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, I could never.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm
It's a
40
tough
and
life,
I
and they're
Props.
very happy. They're like the happiest people in the world, I think.
probably. I mean,
Imagine that.
but that's the thing. That's what I'm saying is like the people that live in the most remote
Yeah.
parts of the world are the people that are the healthiest for some reason. And that shouldn't be the case. It should be the people that have
It should
access
be
to
the
health
opposite,
care,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know, nutritious food and all that.
We also don't have access to them. That's why.
What do you mean?
Like, they don't have access to everything else. People and technology and,
Well, but
you know, everything else that we use on a day-to-day basis.
But doesn't that make you think that, well, maybe this is what's contributing to this is what I'm
No,
saying is it
absolutely.
contributes to everybody being unhealthy.
Absolutely, but this is how we were raised. You know, this is how we grew up. So how do we stop that cycle? You know,
I don't
it's just-
think we can stop
I
it.
don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it really comes down to individuals and bringing, you know, as they're bringing up their kids, they need to kind of instill that in their kids to be healthier, to not eat junk. I mean, but here's the thing: is no matter how hard you try, it's all around you.
Yeah.
Like you try to tell a 5-year-old not to have candy when all his friends are having candy on
Yeah.
Halloween. It's like,
tough.
He's on the iPad and there's a commercial.
Not even that. You know, they have technology.
Yeah.
yeah,
We're always on our
exactly.
phones. We're
You
always
can't
on the
hide shit from
computer.
them.
What are you
Yeah,
gonna
exactly.
take their iPad away?
Yeah, well, it's funny too because I've seen parents that'll take the iPad away from the kid, and 10 seconds into the kid crying, they're like,
Yep.
"Okay, here, just take it back."
Yeah.
Just to shut them up.
Yeah.
You know, and Steve Jobs, when the first iPad came, was it the iPad? I think it was. He said he would never let his kids go on an iPad.
The funny thing is there's a lot of CEOs of big companies. I think it was the CEO of Pepsi or Coca-Cola that at one point said, "I would never let my kids drink this stuff."
Okay. Yes. At the same time, though, if you're a CEO of a big company like that, you can afford to send your kids here. You can afford to send your kids there. They don't have to be on their phone. They don't have to be on their
Well, no, I'm
iPad.
talking about just in general. Like the
Yeah.
products that they push, they know that their products are not healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what was it
You
recent?
can't sit there and tell me you think Pepsi's healthy, though. Like, come on.
Well,
You know, like,
no, but my
one can
point
say
is
that.
they won't say that it's healthy, but they'll try to market it as like it's not dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
well, yeah, they'll sit there and they'll be like, well, yeah, of course, if you drink excess, everything in excess is not
Yeah,
good for you.
that's
But
the
our product's
argument.
not dangerous,
Yeah.
and they know they're full of shit.
Yeah.
Regular exposure to any kind of the chemicals that are in sodas, plastics, whatever, like whether you're talking about plastic water bottles, plastic food containers, regular exposure to that stuff,
Yeah.
that's why cancer is through the roof.
Yeah.
The microplastics that are in the water, that are in the air that we breathe in.
It's in the laundry detergent too.
It's in
And then
everything.
it goes in your clothes
Yeah.
and you wear it.
Honestly, I think microplastics are probably the scariest thing.
Yeah.
The fact that there's bits of plastic floating around that's smaller than a human hair that we inhale
And
regularly.
you can't even see it. Yeah.
that the fish drink and we eat the fish and all and I mean plastic is a petroleum product,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's obviously not healthy, and we're at some point in time ingesting that. It's getting into our bodies and you know it's not leaving.
Where does it typically come from? Where does it typically come from?
It's everywhere. It's in the air, it's in the water, it's everywhere. It's
Is there like a
everywhere.
source? Or
Probably production, manufacturing, recycling. It's just tiny,
it's
tiny,
in
tiny
everywhere.
microscopic bits are getting airborne and it ends up everywhere.
we're not safe.
No, we're not. I don't think. See, that's the thing is, going back to what we were talking about, I don't think AI is going to be the downfall and the end of humanity. I think we will do it to ourselves.
Probably just a distraction.
Hey, it could be.
I mean,
You never know.
it might not be a bad idea to distract us as we kill ourselves, though. You know, it's this was supposed to be a whole different story. I was just thinking about this. We started in the Matrix and the simulation and all that.
You said it was gonna be about dreams and simulation.
Well, but you know, it takes on a life of its own.
That's
well,
great.
and that's the thing is I'm not gonna write a script. I'd rather just
Yeah.
have an organic
organic,
conversation.
natural.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense that way. No, but it's funny because like you have people that'll sit there and talk about how this is unhealthy and you shouldn't have this, but then they turn around and they're, smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And it's like,
taking drugs.
well, it was
all
like,
the
okay,
time.
so for example, it was the funniest shit when, and look, I didn't want to take the COVID vaccine either. I ended up taking it, but I didn't want to take it at first because I'm like, for me, it's so new that I don't know what the risks are, right?
Right.
Which I think is valid. I'm not saying, oh, well, no, it's bullshit. I'm saying it's new. I don't want to jump on that bandwagon. If other people want to, that's great. Let them. I just personally wanted to wait for a little bit. But then you had people that literally smoked 2 packs of cigarettes going, I don't know what I'm putting in my body. It's like, well, you're putting tobacco in your body at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
And so you can't really make that argument. It's like, as you're chugging down a bunch of freaking alcohol and smoking cigarettes, like, now you're concerned about what goes in your body? Don't make the argument that you are concerned with what you're putting in your body. Make the argument that you want to know what it is that you're putting in your body.
I think that's what they meant.
That's probably what
but,
they
like,
meant.
They just didn't.
That's probably what they meant.
You know.
No, but I think to this day, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's still on emergency use authorization.
What do you mean?
The vaccines, the COVID vaccines.
What does that mean?
So I don't think that they're actually FDA approved yet. I think they're only approved for emergency use. They're still on that emergency use authorization.
How long? I would think that they'd want to expedite the process on that.
Unless they can't. Unless they can't. Well, so the funny thing is now when you go to the CDC website or you go to any one of the vaccine manufacturers' websites, remember how the conspiracy theorists were saying, well, the vaccines cause myocarditis. And everybody said, no, that doesn't. It's perfectly safe, 100% safe. There's nothing wrong with it. Now when you go to the websites, it lists that as a possible side effect. So all the stuff that people had concerns about was valid.
Yeah.
But they just, but that's the thing with everything though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when you say, high fructose corn syrup is not good for you. And they say, no, of course it's good for you. Look, everybody's been drinking this shit. It's not causing anything. But people are dropping dead left and right.
Yeah, and they're not going to tell you it's from high fructose corn syrup, but that's what's contributing to it.
But that's my point is like, we know that that's what it is, but they will lie straight to your face just to sell a product.
And then people end up eating all this stuff and then gaining weight and then getting addicted to these things. And then people are just like, putting them down and not understanding those issues as well. People take drugs, people get addicted to them, right? People eat food and they get addicted to alcohol. It's always some form of addiction, right? That they're getting, that whatever they're putting in their body is giving them that addiction. But people don't see it that way.
How do we know that addictive behavior isn't being caused now? Maybe we're seeing more addiction in people now because of the chemicals that are in the food.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's more readily, available, and it's like it's in your face.
It's also
Each addiction is different. Obviously, there are different.
Yeah, but here's the
more
thing.
stress these days, financial situations. I think that could also contribute to it.
But okay, so for example, if they legalized crack cocaine tomorrow, I'm not going to go out and be like, oh, let me try this stuff. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
So, there might be a certain percentage of the population that's like, well, it's legal. We can smoke crack now. But I think the vast majority, if they didn't want to smoke crack before, are not going to start smoking crack because it's legal.
Right. Yeah.
Listen, marijuana's been legal in California for years now.
2007, I think, right? Or 2004?
Yeah, I haven't. I can walk into a store today and buy weed and come home and smoke, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
So
it's too strong. The weed nowadays is too strong.
The funny thing is,
it's not even enjoyable anymore. That's why I stopped smoking.
Because
it would get me so paranoid.
I've never smoked it. So
I've heard people make this argument.
Back then, it was you take it, you relax,
you're mellow, you're watching a
watch cartoons. Now you're like, holy shit, something's gonna happen.
Well,
that's what I've heard you panic on, like smoking. I'm like, I'm not down for that.
So that's how all the weed is now, because it's like 86% THC, and back then it was like 8%.
Like, I was gonna say like probably less than 10.
Yeah,
but
10. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing though, is like people have said that they're like, now smoking weed is like smoking crack because it's so strong.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not fun anymore. I mean, look, again, it's capitalism because it's like, well, if we make the stronger weed, people will buy it. So they just kept making stronger and stronger weed. And it's like, well, if we genetically modify this plant so that it doesn't get like the whatever bugs on it, then we get better crops, we get better yields, whatever.
Better yield, yeah.
Again, it all comes down to capitalism.
Yeah.
I heard they're gonna legalize mushrooms next.
Yeah, I heard. I think in Oregon they're already legal.
Already legal, yeah.
And I think I don't know if this is accurate. I think I heard something about San Francisco has already legalized it.
There's a shop. There's a place called The Church in San Francisco or in Oakland.
Maybe it was Oakland. Yeah, somewhere up there.
You can go buy mushrooms there. Can you believe that?
Interesting.
But I mean, look,
truffles in Amsterdam too.
But mushrooms also, from what I've read, properly dosed and properly used, actually do have some benefits. Apparently, people that have like PTSD and stuff like that, they're actually seeing benefits from using psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't eat freaking half a pound of this stuff and get zooted out of your mind. But like, if you do a controlled amount in a controlled environment with the right people and somebody who knows what they're doing, it probably does have some benefits.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sure that, a lot of them do in some way.
That's I was going to say. I'm sure everying does.
But we abuse it as people.
Yeah, of course.
Even weed.
Because, at the end of the day, a lot of us think, I'm just going to do this. Nothing's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And you just keep doing it over and over again.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. Like, if you have anxiety, you could take a Xanax and you could feel better. Or if you don't have anxiety, you could take 4 Xanax a night just to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So it's like you could abuse it, and I'm sure a lot of people do.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because if people didn't abuse it, then it'd be just readily available, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to go through all these hoops to be able to get a prescription for Xanax or Ativan or whatever it is.
Well, you could just buy it down the street from someone.
Okay,
yeah, but it could be laced with fentanyl. That's the big issue today.
So,
everything could be laced with fentanyl in the streets.
But and again, that goes back to what we were talking about, though, is because they just want to sell shit that's stronger. So it's like, well, sprinkle a little fentanyl in there, and now all of a sudden, you know what it is, though? It's not even that. So the whole problem with fentanyl, and this is the problem, is so the cartels that are bringing the pills across the border. So let's say they're making whatever, they're making their own Xanax pills. They're making them in the same place with the same presses and stuff that they use for their fentanyl pills. So a little bit of dust gets in there, and for somebody that doesn't use fentanyl regularly. I mean, I'm sure, I don't remember what the amount is, but it's like point something milligrams will kill you.
Yeah, it's like 0.00.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, too. Just like pharmaceutical drugs, I got to wonder, I don't know if anybody's done, on some drugs, I'm sure they have, like things like Tylenol, and, it's like prolonged use of Tylenol will cause liver failure or whatever.
Yeah.
But on some of the you can't really test prolonged use on something like, for example, Vicodin. Or because you're not going to put somebody on Vicodin for 40 years and then be like, oh, I wonder what this did to their body. I'm sure there's a few, but you don't have a big enough sample size of people that are taking drugs for that long with these prescription drugs to be able to tell.
I was taking like ibuprofen for, that when I was having that shoulder pain, I was taking ibuprofen for like almost a month, and I was like in so much pain, and I was just kept taking it, and it like messed my stomach up, and I had to go to the hospital, and it was just like not.
Christ.
Well, you get,
it was just not
people
it.
get,
what was how many milligrams? The big ones?
It was 200 milligram, and I was taking maybe 6 or 7 a day, if not more, because I was in so much pain, and I don't really like taking Vicodin or anything like that. So
Vicodin is.
But I mean, I took Vicodin, did not do anything for me. So I'm like, I'm just gonna stick to Motrin, and turns out that contributed to.
Well, there's
me feeling that way,
So there's also a lot of people that have sensitivity to ibuprofen.
Yeah.
So some people just can't take it, period, because it screws their stomach up. No, but what I was going to say is more of all the chemical compounds that are in these drugs. Why? I mean, you listen to any one of these drug commercials, and it's, oh, if you have an overactive bladder, take this pill. but the side effects may include freaking stroke, heart disease, death.
Death.
Fucking heart
They always say
attacks,
that at the,
Sometimes
diabetes. Well, there was
end, and they speed it up
Yeah.
too.
Well, and the funny thing is there was one, I can't remember. I think it was for overactive bladder, and one of the side effects was urinary problems. I'm like, what? Isn't that exactly what you're supposed to be fixing?
Yeah, it's not supposed to help me. You know?
But no, it's like, the stupidest thing, like when you the antidepressant medicines.
No, but like that's
It's like
the thing. Yeah.
it may cause suicidal thoughts. It's like this is what you're
Yeah.
supposed to be fixing.
But,
like
but
I don't
also,
understand.
also, you take these medications, they make something better, and then they make something worse.
Exactly.
Completely unrelated to
So-
what
and that's
you wanted
kinda-
to fix in the first place, right?
So that's where I was going is they're such shitty compounds that they barely fix one thing, but they screw up others.
Yeah.
And then you have to take another shitty compound to fix that other thing. And it's
And then it leads
why do
to
we
this
allow this
vicious
stuff?
cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you end up with like, dude, my dad has to take like 30 pills a day
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's-
crazy,
yeah.
but the problem is he's been on these medicines for so long also that
He can't get off.
you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, your
Your
body's
body's so-
dependent.
Your
Exactly.
body's dependent. Yeah.
Well, like certain medicines,
Jesus.
like so for example, if I remember researching this at one point. So you can lose weight by taking I can't remember what it's called. Synthroid. So it's a thyroid medicine for people that have a underactive thyroid.
Okay.
So you can, if you got some off-label shit from like a Canadian pharmacy, you could take it and it's supposed to help you lose weight because now your thyroid is working
Okay.
hyper fast. Well, what happens though is if you don't have an underactive thyroid, you take that medicine for 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, your thyroid will become lazy. And then now you're dependent on that medicine. So even if you didn't need it to begin with, now you
So
do.
you're purposely, without knowing, doing that to yourself.
Well, what I'm saying is, I wonder how many other things that does that. So, like, if you're prescribed like Crestor because you have high cholesterol,
Yeah.
does your body just stop trying to get rid of the cholesterol because it's like, well, there's this drug here doing it anyway?
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Same thing about
Blood pressure
insulin.
stuff and
Insulin.
I
Right?
mean,
Like-
well, and that's the thing too, though, is I've read, and I don't know how true it is, but I've read a lot of things on the internet where people were saying how, by changing diet and this and that and eating certain foods, they were able to like completely reverse diabetes.
I'm hearing the carnivore diet. A lot of people are saying the carnivore diet has fixed.
I keep hearing that too.
I've heard it works pretty well, but I also feel like it probably raises your cholesterol like crazy.
I think, but here's the thing too, though, is I think,
Gout, all this. I've heard people get gout. Like it's just
but I also feel like that something like raising your cholesterol, I feel like that's temporary. But I mean, here's the thing too,
yeah,
though.
but it also contributes to your cholesterol numbers, increase that you have artery.
But you don't have
blockages,
to.
valve blockages and all these things. Like it contributes.
You
to all
don't
that
have
stuff.
to eat fatty red meat all day. Like you can eat chicken and fish and whatever. Like
Fish, yeah, salmon.
you're just not supposed to
majority of
have.
people that I've seen like videos of them eating the
baby
carnivore. It's like steak
It's like steak
and like
beef.
eggs
You're thinking like the
and
Liver King,
avocado
but yeah,
or something.
it-
Yeah, I'm like,
My
that's a
thing
lot.
is, how do they poop without fiber, or is fiber?
I don't know because you're not supposed to have grains or like dairy products or anything like that. So I don't know how that's
Or
supposed to work.
fruit? They don't even have.
yeah, they
fruit.
can't have fruit. I don't think they can have.
Wait, are you
avocado.
supposed to have dairy products? You can have dairy products,
Can't
but no
have-
grains.
Yeah.
They can have avocado.
No, you can't have avocado
Yeah, it's fat.
on the carnivore diet. I'm saying
You can't have avocado. I've seen people eat avocado.
You're not supposed to do like fruit stuff.
Well,
You're
they're
supposed to
not
do is just like,
carnivore.
oh, sorry,
I've never
it was,
done it, but
Yeah.
those, they just eat meat. They just eat red meat, eggs, once in a while fish, and
Yeah.
they do eat cheese. I keep seeing a lot of.
You're right. No, I screwed up. You can have dairy because it's an animal. So it's supposed to
Yeah,
be
but dairy doesn't make
anything
you
from an
poop.
animal.
Yeah, everything from an animal. That's right.
Unless you're lactose intolerant.
But
Yeah.
I feel like also if you did something like that for like a couple of weeks, your body would probably just adjust to figure out how to work without everything else.
It's speaking from someone who has had that experience. It does not sometimes figure it out.
I don't know.
I've had a lot of poop issues. This is now on the internet.
We need to have another conversation
I
about
still
this.
do.
We could have an hour-long conversation about poop issues.
Yeah, I'm. Oh my god.
Yeah, I can't have ice cream unless I have like a clear schedule for the next day.
You guys
Anyway.
don't even want to hear about my shit's scary.
Anyway,
Quite literally, scary shit.
well, this is a riveting conversation.
Riveting. Yeah, I don't know. I think, but I think everybody just kind of needs to watch out for themselves because
Yeah.
my point is like you can't take the experts' advice because all these experts are just
They're not
paid off.
experts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're people that have a degree that are getting paid by some company to say that their food is good.
They're
Yeah.
evil experts.
What was it that came out like I think it was like last year or the year before with the new food triangle? Did you see that?
I haven't looked at
Where it
I've
was
heard
like
of it,
processed
but
cereal was like the
top
you
one
should
or
have
something, like,
you should have like that's the
Yeah.
most you should have.
yeah,
And I think it was like eggs was like you should not eat it at all. I'm like,
At
how
the
does that
bottom.
make sense?
yeah.
Like Honey Nut Cheerios. Is
Yeah,
top.
like processed freaking sugary fucking cereal is great for you, but God forbid you eat eggs. This is the most ass backward thing I've ever heard.
Just do what's right for you at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like
Yeah, it's a crazy world right now.
that's all I'm saying is I think we all just need to look out for ourselves and do our own research because it's at the end of the day, it's well, I mean, half the time you do your research and if it goes against what they're trying to sell you, they just tell you it's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
That's the screwed up part.
Yeah.
I've come to believe that anytime somebody says it's a conspiracy, that's what I should be listening to. Like when it comes to like food and stuff like that, where they're like, oh yeah, no, they don't, the fluoride in the water, that's 100% okay. Don't worry about it. It's a conspiracy. Like, well, then maybe that's something I should be worried
That
about.
light bulb goes off. Maybe I should do my own research on that, you know?
You know,
Yeah.
for me, I'm hearing like, I don't know. This is like now, like even the liberals know that the food that they're putting chemicals and all this crazy stuff in our food. So I think more people
I think people in
than
general
ever,
are
yeah,
getting more information and doing more research and finding out this
Yeah.
information.
the
What was it
food-
that I heard about today?
the food is like the biggest
Oh,
thing. really.
Contributor.
Yeah.
so apparently, because the Trump administration wants to not allow people to buy like sugary drinks with food stamps, right? And apparently, one of the organizations that came out against that was like the American Heart Association and was like, why? People should totally be allowed to buy
The
sugary
American
drinks.
Heart Association.
That makes no sense.
Yeah. Like they were advocating for people to be able to buy soda
They
and shit.
should have
Like,
backed them up and said, "Yeah, this is great."
Right.
well, but who pays the American Heart Association?
know. This is crazy.
the Coke and Pepsi
Coke,
companies.
Pepsi,
Yeah.
Frito Lay's,
I guarantee you, Frito-Lay, Kellogg, fucking what's the General Mills?
Mills,
Yeah, guarantee you, it's all of them. I guarantee.
Pepperidge Farms.
Well, here's the problem: is when you really break it down and you look at who owns what. There's only like a dozen companies that owns everything in this country.
yeah,
Like every brand in this country is owned by like a dozen companies.
yeah, that's true.
So that dozen companies, endlessly deep pockets, and all they got to do is pay somebody off. No,
Anyway.
that's fun.
All right.
Something to think about. Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More illness.
Well,
Well, Rafi, thank you for joining us today.
thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I appreciate it.
We'll do this again.
We'll do
All right.
it again.
All right.
Next time.
Absolutely.
Have a
See you
good one.
guys.
All right.
Ciao.